I still feel bad for Oregon in all of this. They got absolutely hosed.
Why? They would have been, Ohio State would have done to them whenever they saw them.
In the championship game, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know about that.
What, they would have had more, Oregon would have had more of a
Oregon gets a
they would have had more momentum?
Not a home game, and then they have to play Ohio State. How is that fair?
It's not, but you had to face them at some point.
You'd rather it be in the championship game than...
I guess so.
So
you think, let's just say last night, instead of it Notre Dame versus Ohio State, it was Ohio State, Oregon. You thought we would have had a different result?
Much better game. It wouldn't have been an almost 10-point spread.
I don't know about that, man. I think Ohio State would have eviscerated Oregon no matter the date, the time, the place.
Interesting. Except the first time they played each other.
Well, I mean, that was in Oregon. That's a different story. As a neutral site. Now, let's get into this then, and then we'll do Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday on the back end of this year. But on the back end of this hour, before we get to George Karlaftis of the Chiefs and Mike Pereira in studio. What do we make of the college football playoff?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Now that it's done, now that it's in the books.
What do we give this a grade at? Because there are definitely some tweaks that need to be made.
No question. The tweaks that need to be made is giving the bye week teams a home game.
Yeah. And we need to change how we give out bye weeks. Like Boise and Arizona State shouldn't have, we don't need bye weeks.
Right. Who was it? Was it Dan Wetzel who came on and said when this came up, when this idea was first born, that you have to give the Power 5 a bye week, or 4 of the 5 of the Power 5 must get these bye weeks, and Notre Dame doesn't get one because they're demanding to be independent.
Clemson got the bye week.
No, what I'm just saying is that Clemson did not get the bye week. Clemson.
Oh, they won the ACC, did not get a bye week.
But what I'm saying is Dan Wetzel was saying that the bye weeks were parceled out to the Power 5 winners, or 4 of the 5 of them would get it. Right. And when that idea was born, there was a Pac-12 at the time, and Texas was in the Big 12 with Oklahoma. So now that the realignment has messed with that order of things, I agree. There should be. Would you have put Ohio State in a bye week spot after having lost to Michigan with 2 losses?
Maybe not after having lost to Michigan. No.
So I guess I agree. We do need to come up with a different way to bye week them, and then the bye week teams should get a home game too. I believe. Don't you think? Am I wrong?
Makes sense.
No, I like it. I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And do we think the 12 is enough? Or we think 12 is too much? What do we think here?
12 is a little. 8, I think, is good.
If it was
8's a good number.
If it was 8, if it was
10,
8,
you could still have 2 buys, maybe.
Right. Because there would have to still be a bye
in the middle there.
What do you think? 10?
Yeah.
Because why? Because the first round was such a blowout city that, with the exception of Indiana,
7 of the first 8 games were pretty bad.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Yeah. So
we're gonna want to change it right now, or we want to let it run through to see if that's going to be the case every year.
I think you got to give it a shot, right? This was the first year, so maybe see.
I don't want to overreact. Let's keep 12.
You don't want to overreact?
I'm trying to be rational. I think 12 is good. Let's give 12 a little bit more runway, but let's make the tweaks to the home games. And
I don't think we're ever going to get
how we decide buys.
Even if the first round of these playoffs is blowout city next year and the year after that, they will never contract the number of teams in the playoffs. That's just not happening.
No, they're only going to add. They're only going to add. It's going to get to 16 at some point, I'm sure.
Did you see Joel Klatt went all in on the social? Somebody sent me his tweet that it's an egregious handling of the sport to have the national championship game as late as the 20th on the Monday of divisional playoff weekend. That you're burying it. It's too long. It's gone on too long. What do you think about that one? Because I looked it up. Michigan beat Washington on January 8th last year.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so that's 12 days later now.
Do you like it on the 8th or you want it on the 1st?
I do kind of, no, I think the 8th works. I do kind of dig having this game earlier, but you'd have to what? You'd have to start the playoff first round earlier.
Right.
which would be still what, 2 weeks after the 2 weeks after the conference championship games, which you're still having, which maybe that's the thing you get rid of. You get rid of those games, man. You get rid of those games, and
what are we doing them for?
What we're doing them for is to figure out who's getting a bye.
Other than dollars, I mean,
no, you're doing them to figure out who gets a bye, and nobody this year had their standing improved by missing that game. You know, nobody, right? Nobody made, like, Alabama was in and then they were out when
but
Clemson.
That was only because Clemson upset.
Right. SMU,
yeah. So.
Who made a nice run at the end of the second half.
Right.
So what do we make of it?
The 20th is too late. I kind of agree with
20th. So we're fixing it. We're going to get the national championship game played earlier.
Well, they always played on a Monday. So how does that conflict with the last week of the NFL regular season? There's no Monday game, right, for Week 18?
Correct. I think that's what happened last year. Is the Michigan-Wisconsin game, Washington game was the Monday after the regular season was over.
I think that's a perfect spot. You don't want it to get lost in Wild Card Weekend. You don't want it to get lost Divisional Monday either.
But this year it was too close to Jan 1, which is where you want to have a bunch of college football playoff games.
The Monday, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to have the national championship game on what? You could have it on a Tuesday.
Wednesday,
Wild Card Weekend.
Thursday, why not? That's a great lead up.
You could do that.
Even Friday.
Why does it have to be on a Monday night?
Even Friday night, leading into the Wild Card Weekend.
And then you give bye weeks to certain teams that you don't have to marry them to whether they won a conference. You kind of have to, don't you?
Well, then you get the situation that we had this year with a 3-loss team.
I mean, let's order it. Let's order it. First things first is bye week teams get home games.
Yes.
Second thing is
moving it up.
Moving it up, I think.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is figuring out how to crack the code of
who gets buys.
Who gets buys.
How do you figure out the buys?
Did we figure that one out? Have we looked at
Ari's consultant. What we do here.
So your grade for this first edition of the 12-team playoff would be okay.
B+ because
Can I ask you a question?
Because
let's just say Ohio State hadn't won. Would it be A?
No, because there's still the issues of blowout. I mean, what, 3 of the 12, 3 of the 11 games were close.
Right.
It wasn't that compelling.
It's B+ because of the blowouts early. And the questioning of the bye weeks, were they right or not? For
Clemson winning the ACC really threw a huge wrench.
I know that.
Into all of this.
Yeah, and it would be A- if Michigan were in it.
No Alabama.
I downgraded.
Carson Beck getting injured
from last night. But I'll tell you what, having somebody from Ohio call in and say, you know what, Ryan Day still isn't all that, and because he lost to Michigan, really helped make my day. Thank you, Michael in Canton, Ohio. That was great.
Rich, I think that's why I predicted he might take that Bears job a few weeks ago, because fans like that don't seem to like him.
Excuse me, Ryan Day's going nowhere.
No.
He should stay put. He deserves to stay put.
Forever?
And ever. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.